Born Alexander Boris Johnson in New York City in 1964, he was destined for an extraordinary path. Raised between America and the UK, Boris experienced a multicultural upbringing that shaped his worldview from an early age. He was educated at the prestigious Eton College, Britain's elite breeding ground for future leaders, where his intelligence, wit, and unique personality began to shine. Even as a child, Boris was described as ambitious, eccentric, and incredibly intelligent. At Oxford University, he studied classics and became president of the Oxford Union, cementing his reputation as a gifted speaker. After university, he launched a career in journalism, eventually becoming editor of The Spectator. His transition into politics led him to roles as Member of Parliament, Mayor of London, Foreign Secretary, and ultimately Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Known for his colourful language, controversial remarks, and unorthodox leadership style, Boris Johnson has remained one of the most recognisable and debated figures in British politics. At Oxford University, Boris studied classics and served as president of the Oxford Union, showing early signs of his flair for performance, public speaking, and fierce debate. His leadership at the Union marked him as a rising star with both intellectual and theatrical abilities, qualities that would later define his political persona. Boris was known for his sharp wit, self-confidence, and eccentric demeanour, which made him stand out even among Oxford's elite. After graduation, he set his sights on a career in journalism, quickly landing a position at The Times. However, his time there was cut short when he was fired for fabricating a quote attributed to his godfather, the historian Colin Lucas. Despite this early setback, Boris remained undeterred. He went on to join the Daily Telegraph, where he found his voice as the Brussels correspondent. His colourful, often exaggerated columns critiquing the European Union captured the attention of both readers and political figures, helping to shape Eurosceptic sentiment in the UK. His writing style, witty, provocative, and frequently controversial, made him a household name. By the 1990s, Boris Johnson had evolved from a journalist into a media personality. He became a regular guest on popular British television shows such as Have I Got News for You?, where his bumbling yet charismatic presence endeared him to the public. He used humour, self-deprecation, and a touch of chaos to make politics more entertaining and accessible. This unique blend of intellect, showmanship, and unpredictability helped him build a loyal following. His ability to turn apparent gaffes into moments of charm became a signature trait, laying the groundwork for his future political success. In 2008, Boris Johnson was elected Mayor of London, defeating the incumbent Ken Livingstone in a closely watched and hotly contested race. His victory marked a significant turning point, not only in his own career, but also in the Conservative Party's efforts to rebrand itself in a modern urban context. Many saw Boris's election as a surprising success, given his reputation for being more of a media personality than a conventional politician. As mayor, Boris sought to blend showmanship with substantive policy. One of his most visible legacies was the launch of the public cycle hire scheme, popularly dubbed Boris Bikes. Although the idea was initiated under his predecessor, Boris championed and expanded the program, making it a symbol of his tenure. He also oversaw major investments in London's public transport system, including the introduction of new Routemaster-style buses and support for infrastructure upgrades on the Underground. Another key moment of his mayoralty came in 2012, when London hosted the Olympic Games. The event was not only a logistical triumph, but also a public relations success for Boris. His enthusiastic support, humorous interviews, and memorable moments, such as getting stuck on a zip line waving Union Jack flags, endeared him to the public. The Games went off smoothly and were widely praised, further boosting his national profile. While his time as mayor was marked by occasional blunders and his trademark eccentricity, Boris managed to connect with Londoners in a way that few politicians had. His charisma, accessibility, and ability to dominate media narratives turn the mayoralty into a springboard for his future leadership ambitions, solidifying his image as a leader with both popular appeal and political instincts. Boris Johnson's biggest political gamble came in 2016, when he became one of the most prominent and controversial figures in the Vote Leave campaign during the EU referendum. Despite having previously written both for and against EU membership, Boris ultimately threw his weight behind Brexit, a decision that shocked many, including colleagues in the Conservative Party. As one of the campaign's leading faces, he brought visibility, energy, and a unique brand of populist rhetoric that connected with a wide range of voters. He often used bold, simplified, and sometimes misleading claims, most famously the disputed promise that the UK sent £350 million a week to the EU, which could instead be spent on the NHS. Critics accused him of stoking division and promoting misinformation, but supporters praised his ability to cut through the political noise. His charisma, media skills, and flair for public speaking played a crucial role in shifting public sentiment, helping to deliver the shocking referendum result. On June 23, 2016, the UK voted to leave the European Union. Following the vote, Boris experienced a brief political setback. His leadership bid to replace Prime Minister David Cameron collapsed after a key ally, Michael Gove, unexpectedly withdrew support. However, Boris remained a key figure in British politics. He later served as Foreign Secretary before resigning over disagreements about Brexit strategy. In 2019, he made a political comeback, winning the Conservative Party leadership and becoming Prime Minister. With his rallying cry, "Get Brexit done," he tapped into public frustration over years of political deadlock. In the December 2019 general election, he led the Conservatives to a historic landslide victory, breaking through Labour's traditional strongholds and solidifying his position as one of the most consequential and polarising British politicians of his generation. As Prime Minister, Boris Johnson faced one of the greatest and most unpredictable challenges in modern British history, the COVID-19 pandemic. Initially criticised for a slow response, Boris eventually implemented a nationwide lockdown in March 2020, following growing concern from health experts and international pressure. The crisis soon became deeply personal. He contracted the virus himself and in April 2020 was admitted to intensive care. His condition was serious, and for several days the nation watched anxiously. After recovering, Boris returned to work with a renewed sense of mission, stating that he owed his life to the National Health Service and promising to steer the country through the pandemic. Despite moments of unity and resolve, his government's handling of the crisis drew increasing criticism. Issues such as delays in imposing restrictions, the procurement of personal protective equipment, PPE, confusing messaging, and problems with the test and trace system led to accusations of mismanagement. Yet, it was not policy failures alone that did the most damage to his leadership. It was the growing number of scandals that followed. Most damaging of all was the scandal known as Partygate. In late 2021 and early 2022, reports emerged that government officials, including Boris Johnson himself, had attended parties and gatherings at 10 Downing Street during periods of strict national lockdown. These events, which included Christmas celebrations and birthday parties, stood in stark contrast to the sacrifices being made by the public, many of whom had been unable to visit dying relatives or attend funerals due to the rules. The backlash was intense. Johnson initially denied wrongdoing, but further investigations and leaked photos undermined his credibility. His approval ratings plummeted and public trust eroded. Critics from across the political spectrum labelled his leadership as chaotic, irresponsible, and out of touch with the realities faced by ordinary citizens. While he survived initial calls to resign, the damage to his reputation was deep and lasting, marking a dramatic shift in his once dominant political standing. In 2022, following a cascade of political scandals, internal party rebellions, and high-profile resignations, including from key cabinet members, Boris Johnson announced his resignation as Prime Minister. His departure marked the end of a dramatic and often turbulent chapter in British politics. Yet even as he stepped down, Boris remained a larger-than-life and deeply polarizing figure. To his supporters, he was a symbol of resilience, optimism, and charismatic leadership. They admired his wit, rhetorical flair, and his role in delivering Brexit, something that had eluded his predecessors. To his critics, however, he embodied dishonesty, chaos, and a disregard for rules and accountability. Boris Johnson's legacy is undeniably complex. He reshaped the Conservative Party, redefined political communication, and altered public expectations of leadership. Whether remembered as a bold visionary or a reckless populist, one thing is certain: Boris Johnson left an indelible mark on the United Kingdom's political landscape.